Products that are constructed using soft materials can often be some of the most challenging things to convincingly visualize in 3D. The need to place metal and plastic hardware next to soft, creased, folded and stitched fabric panels requires a modelling medium which is flexible in nature. MODO's subdivision surfaces give you such a medium, a soft, pliable material that behaves a lot like fabric when you want it to, but can also be made to appear as hard as steel. But to effectively design in 3D requires a range of tools that allow you to do a lot more than just modelling. A design is always going to begin its life as a 2D sketch. The challenge is being able to transfer that sketch into 3D as quickly as possible so more informed decisions can be made about it. MODO's preset system is an invaluable starting point. It allows you to get up and running quickly with either repurposed assets from previous projects or even rigs that help you to work to define parameters. In fact, anything that might help you in the design and modelling process can be viewed and accessed through the preset browser. A perfect way to utilize it is by generating a library of generic starting volumes. These mesh presets can be quickly loaded into the 3D environment and then manipulated using any of MODO's fast and intuitive editing tools to define an initial silhouette. One of the most powerful features that can help you in this process are fall-offs. These allow you to define an influence area and then deform the shape accordingly. Importantly, the fall-off remains live, so subtle adjustments can be made. Elements of the volume can be selected and worked on independently to build more subtlety into the design. Additional volumes can be loaded into the scene and then set into the main volume to quickly create more complex shapes. This is perfect for defining pockets or even the position and location of straps and handles. With the silhouette and volume in place, you'll now have a three-dimensional canvas upon which you can paint. If good elevation or three-quarter drawings of the design exist, then you can use the Image Ink tool to project them directly onto the surface. This will quickly place your 2D drawn lines into 3D space, allowing you to immediately see the areas that need to be resolved. With this as a starting point, you can then use familiar tools such as the airbrush, paintbrush, eraser or clone tool to adjust the design. For a controlled approach to defining the location of trench lines and panels, curves can be placed on the surface of the volume and used to constrain the brush. Predefined hardware can be quickly applied using the preset browser. By dragging and dropping from the browser onto the model, objects such as buckles, tags and studs can be placed directly onto the surface. Logos and graphics can be projected onto the surface to define the location of any branding, and material swatches can also be applied as layers to suggest the nature of the fabric being used. Throughout this process, the design can be viewed in MODO's Preview Rendering viewport. This allows you to develop a presentation image in parallel with the design, and again by using MODO's preset system, predefined lighting setups and environments can be quickly loaded, setting a design immediately in context. You can even use non-realistic shading to create drawn effects, and when you're ready, images of the design can be quickly saved directly from the preview viewport, and then incorporated into review material. Initially, this might be as far as you want to take the model, but importantly, this process allows you to quickly develop an initial conversation about the three-dimensional nature of the design, without the need for a physical sample. But if you do want to take the model further, then this sketch model is invaluable. With the location of trench and stitch lines already defined, it can now act as a guide when building more accurate geometry. A good starting point is to follow the lines defined in the sketch with the Topology sketch tool. This allows you to quickly paint new geometry across the reference geometry. With those lines defined, you can then bridge between them to form a panel. With the panel in place, you then need to give it some material thickness, and this can be achieved with the Thicken tool. As more and more panels are created, they can then themselves become reference geometry, with new panels and details being built directly on top of them. Trenches for stitch lines can be added by beveling and pinching the geometric strips that are initially created, and piping can be added along panel borders using the Tube tool. To make a really convincing model, you need to build tension into the surface, and this is where the true power of subdivision surfaces becomes apparent. A subdivision surface is a smoothed version of the original faceted surface. When this non-destructive conversion happens, it immediately makes the model feel like it's made from fabric. It can be pushed and pulled around in a very natural and intuitive way, helping to relax the model and build subtle imperfections into the surface that add to its realism. MODO's integrated sculpting tools can be used to suggest folds and creases in the fabric, or puckering around stitches, and stitches themselves can either be modelled and cloned across the surface, or just suggested by rendering a curve. It all depends how far you want to push the end result. but MODO has all the modelling tools that you need to develop incredibly realistic results. With your model created, you can now use MODO's physically accurate renderer to produce stunning visuals for either review or marketing purposes. MODO can be viewed as a virtual photo studio. You can light your scene with HDRI images, direct lights and geometry lights, allowing for complete control and customization of lighting setups. With your lighting defined, material presets can then be utilized by dragging and dropping them from the preset browser, allowing you to quickly develop the look of your object. But MODO's shading system also allows for unlimited experimentation, with settings that help you to develop any material you can imagine, materials that can then be saved as presets and shared with other members of your team. It's a shading system that shares many similarities with layer-based systems found in 2D applications. Layers can be stacked on top of each other, masked and blended together using opacity changes and blending modes. These layers not only allow you to control the colour, reflective and transparent properties of a surface, but can also control bump and displacement, allowing you to use images to emboss a surface. The layering system also allows for multiple materials to be easily stacked onto a surface, allowing for alternative states of that surface to be saved using MODO's render pass system. This allows you to manage variations within a scene. And by using MODO's production renderer, you're also able to break your image into easily editable outputs that, when saved as a layered PSD file, allow for complete control of your image in post. The challenge of taking a 2D idea and developing it into a 3D one can be rewarding but often time-consuming. MODO's toolset and the skills needed to utilize it allow 2D and 3D to come closer together, allowing decisions to happen faster and ideas to be presented in more compelling ways.